Most crypto investors are familiar with ETH being worth $500 or maybe $1,000 or $1,500 where it sits today. The market cap is $150 billion, the second largest behind Bitcoin. But what if you invested when it was worth less than a penny? When you could exchange one Bitcoin and get thousands of ETH in return for that? I speak to two investors who did exactly that. They invested in the Ethereum ICO using their Bitcoin. They made that bet and they still have not sold any Ethereum. If you hold any Ethereum at all and you've ever wondered, what's the price target on this thing? What are the largest and earliest investors thinking? Is DeFi here to stay? This episode is for you. So let's go right into the Profit Maximalist show. If you guys are enjoying these episodes, hit the like button, subscribe right down below. Let's get into things right after the intro.
From here, and that's up.
We going up!
It's $100 million. That's a lot of money.
We going up!
Which makes it the holy grail.
Today I'm joined by two guys I met in San Francisco outside of a bar. I don't know when that was. That was peak bull market, and I've been waiting to do the show for a while, and with ETH at all-time highs, I think it's the right time to do it. I'm joined by the Spediacci.
Hey Luke, we're doing good. We're happy to be here. We've never done a podcast or interview before, so we're excited. Hey Luke, good to be here.
I don't know who wants to tell the story of how we met. I don't know when that was. What was that, 2017, probably peak bull market. I was at a conference. I wasn't living in San Francisco at the time. Do you guys remember what conference that was? James, what were we at? Was that Consensus or what was going on then?
I think it might have been Ethereal, right?
It could have been, it was probably Ethereal then. Yeah. So Ethereal,
It was Consensus, Ethereal. We were all at that event, and there was like an after party at this bar called The Battery.
Yep.
And we met you and your brother there, and then we had a great conversation that night, and even when we left the bar, like we had a great conversation outside about what was going on in crypto.
Yeah, that's what I remember, because me and so I was there with my brother. It was after Ethereal. I'm in town, trying to meet up with as many teams as I can, investors as I can. The market's hot, right? It's 2017. Everything's going up, and it's an exciting time, as it is right now. And over the past week or two, as ETH is hitting its all-time high, everyone's been suggesting ETH targets. And I was just telling Julian before the call, it's like I've been struggling with how do I come up with a price model for ETH? Like how high can ETH go even if I'm bullish? I kind of want to understand where I can be wrong. Is that too aggressive? Is it too conservative? And I vividly remember being outside the Battery, and we were, I'm waiting for an Uber. You guys are waiting for an Uber. And we probably talked for an hour. I don't know if any of us got a ride for an hour because we just start talking about how high ETH can go. And you two have been around ETH since the very beginning. And so I'm very, very curious about your story, because we always hear about the early Bitcoin investors. Rarely do we hear about the early ETH investors. What was it like investing in the Ethereum ICO? What was the thesis then? And how did you guys find yourselves in that situation?
I'll tell a story. Okay. Yeah. So we were actually early Bitcoiners before we ever knew about Ethereum. Like that's probably the best way you could have heard about Ethereum, was already being in crypto,
Sure,
already being involved. And we got into Bitcoin 2012, 2013. We went through the surge that year in 2013 and the crash, when Silk Road was shut down, when Mt. Gox was shut down. And we were just like in the ashes in early 2014. And everyone was like, they kind of gave up on crypto at that point in 2014. There was no one left. And I was still really into it. And I was like, why is everyone quitting? Why is everyone leaving this space? And that's when I learned about Vitalik. I was actually working at a startup at that time that incorporated Bitcoin into its chat application.
Yeah.
So we were like one of the first Bitcoin wallet, Bitcoin faucet applications in 2013, 2014. And the founder told me about Ethereum, and I was like, okay, there's this new coin he's excited about. Cool. There's a lot of new coins at the time, but I looked into it. I learned all about Vitalik and smart contracts, and I was so enamored with it that I decided that we should set up one of the first Ethereum meetup groups on meetup.com. So that was 2013, 2014. And in that, one of those first meetup groups, we had Vitalik present Ethereum. So like just like seeing Vitalik for the first time, and Julian was there too. Seeing Vitalik speak for the first time, like, it just kind of like blew me away. Like I just knew something was there. And also like hearing the stories of all the other people in the room at that meetup describe what they wanted to build with Ethereum and where they saw it going, that gave me the conviction to, go all in during
Also
the Ethereum ICO.
Also for the mindset, you have to, consider what we were thinking at the time, which is we got hacked on Cryptsy, we got hacked on BTCE, we lost tons of crypto. Yeah, Mt. Gox.
We didn't lose it on Mt. Gox. We only lost our random tokens on those other exchanges, but we didn't lose our Bitcoin.
We got lucky with Coinbase. So we moved all of our Bitcoins from Mt. Gox to Coinbase because we realized, wait, Mt. Gox is in Japan, Coinbase is US based, we're in San Francisco. This makes a little more sense for us. So that's why we still had or hung on to our Bitcoin. But so there was all these just scammers in the space, just, bad actors. And like you had Megacoin, Kim.com was doing
MaxCoin.
It's the Wild West.
Other coin.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was similar to what was happening in 2017, 2018 with all those ICOs.
Yeah.
And so you had to kind of like sift through all the garbage. And we found Ethereum, and we read all about it. It was even on the Bitcoin forums on Reddit. Like that was or Bitcoin Talk. People were, talking about Ethereum there. Like right now, like if you're talking about Ethereum, like it would get deleted immediately. But back then, it was okay. So we discovered it. We saw Vitalik speak, and we just, I guess we just have some intuition, and we saw through that. Like he's a good human being. Like he actually wants to build, and we just saw like the vision of like, okay, smart contracts. We kind of understood like this could be like having an iPhone with applications on it, except decentralized applications. So just like it made sense, and Bitcoin is great for what it is. It's, it's the future of gold, but it wasn't really doing much, and neither were the other coins in the space. So having that futuristic mindset, I think, made us take that risk.
Right now, go ahead, James.
We were looking for something to revive Bitcoin from the ashes during 2014.
Yeah.
Because everyone was gone. Like we needed something new to bring people in, and we just saw that with Ethereum.
Right. Like for most people listening to the show or anyone really in crypto right now, I mean, the vast majority of people, when they think of altcoins, they honestly probably assume that ETH was like, it was Bitcoin was created and then ETH was created next, right? They don't understand that Feathercoin, like there were altcoins probably before Ethereum, most of them trying to compete with Bitcoin. Ethereum was this entirely new idea with a very wide range of possibilities and kind of scope. How was it talked about then? And I'm also really curious because you guys said it was, posted on those Bitcoin forums. How was it received back then? Because right now there's like this weird divide of you're a Bitcoiner or you like Ethereum. And that's still such a very weird idea to me. Like I understand if there's a coin that's trying to directly compete with Bitcoin, I understand animosity there because I don't think anything wins versus Bitcoin that tries to be a better Bitcoin. Bitcoin has won. But if something's trying to be entirely different, I don't it's like hating stocks because, you can invest in them and not Bitcoin. Like that doesn't make sense to me. What was Ethereum pitched as when you guys invested? What got you excited?
I guess the term Bitcoin maximalist didn't really exist back then. So you didn't have all these, I guess, toxic mindset of people saying Austrian economics, blah, blah, blah. But it was more pitched as just, I think it was welcomed in like these other projects too, because they were creating cryptocurrencies that were, no one knew where this was going to go. And it was just building on the foundations of Bitcoin. So it was really positively received, I think.
I think we did see the early beginnings of Bitcoin maximalism back then, because I do remember people saying, oh, why do you need Ethereum and its own blockchain when you could build it on Bitcoin with like Mastercoin or Rootstock? Yeah.
Was that before?
So, like-
was that before ETH had even launched? That people were saying that? Like, was this was conceptual times when Vitalik came out with the idea? People were saying, "Why do we even need that?" That was.
Everyone was saying that Bitcoin would be able to do anything, and these are all just like experimentations that
Sure.
Bitcoin's going to use in the future.
And so the thesis
Yeah.
was: so you guys go and see Vitalik Talk. This is the white paper. Eventually comes out. What eventually got you so excited that you were ready to say, "Let's put capital into this"? Because it's an idea where everyone listening right now, and even myself, I'm like, man, if I would have seen Vitalik Talk, I would have thrown some money at that. But at the time, it's not like Bitcoin was at 5K or 10K or even $1,000. This was like a small, like everyone kind of knew each other. This is a very small group of people that are interested in this. There's not a lot of coins. There isn't an industry. There's no conferences. There's not, it's a small thing still. Like, what got you guys excited? Why did you want to take that bet?
I think, so Bitcoin Magazine, they used to be physical copies.
Yeah.
I remember that one issue with Ethereum on it, and Vitalik used to work at Bitcoin Magazine.
Yeah.
I think between that article coming out and just us trying to revive this industry after that crash, and then I remember the ICO, it was a 2-month long ICO, and I remember when it came out, we were both talking hey, that Ethereum ICO that we were talking about, it's live right now. Should we invest? And so, we kind of meddled on it for a few days, and we thought about it. We did more research, and we just invested a lot into it. I think after, we just made that decision, collectively together. I'm glad we did.
Mostly based on Vitalik? Was it a bet on Vitalik will win, or was it the idea that we needed a decentralized computing power? We needed decentralized apps. What was the bet?
I think it was a bet on the resurgence of this industry, and that there would be other tech that would help bring it back. And Ethereum wouldn't just be like a testnet like Litecoin would be. It would be something greater. And I think we just clicked with us, and we saw that was the future.
Yeah, we saw Bitcoin as a currency, but we didn't see it doing smart contracts. We didn't see it doing Dapps or applications, and we saw Ethereum leading the way with that. So we saw them as two separate things.
What was what were some of the first Dapps pitched as? If you thought, Julian, you kind of described it as it was a clear vision of, look, you have an iPhone, it has apps. Bitcoin, in the same way that it's powerful to be decentralized, it enables a lot of things. It's that enables censorship resistance. The world will benefit from this. What were the first use cases you could see for ETH? Because right now everyone's saying DeFi, and it makes so much sense. Lending and decentralized exchanges. Were those the kind of ideas that were being tossed around then, or were they grandiose? What was it?
I want to clear this up.
Go ahead.
A lot of people say that the Ethereum narrative has changed 5 times over the past 7 years, but it hasn't. From the beginning, I remember people pitching decentralized finance on Ethereum, and it was going to disrupt Wall Street. It was going to disrupt financial applications and basically rebuild Wall Street on Ethereum.
Yeah,
and that's what I remember from those meetups that I first started going to. It was 2017 when all these ICO scams came out, and you could build like Uber on Ethereum and Airbnb on Ethereum. That just somehow happened in 2017, but I never saw Ethereum going in that direction, and I was actually against it when I saw it, because I was like, this is not what I signed up for. if that makes sense. But yeah, a lot of people say, oh, Ethereum was made for these ICOs. No, I think they didn't even have ERC20 tokens back then,
I think I remember the first dapping pitch really was the prediction markets, and that was considered the holy grail. And I thought that would be a really cool concept. And then we had Augur come out and a few others. But yeah, I had no vision of all these Ubers and Airbnbs. It was kind of just a resurgence of the 2009, 2012 San Francisco era of apps. And they just wanted to, rebuild what was already there, but decentralized. But there was really no use for any of those coins. And there still isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so now Ethereum is back on track with decentralized finance, which is, I think, that was the original vision, and I'm glad it's back. Like we dabbled with some ICOs in 2017, but
Who didn't?
I mean, yeah, who didn't?
It was fun, but
Going back in time, I wish we didn't, but I'm glad, DeFi is back on track, and there's a lot of really cool things being built in the space. And I mean, there's probably I would say less than 30,000 people who even know about DeFi in the world. So we have a long way to go.
Yeah.
I think what really brings a lot of value to crypto is, religion or cults, because the early days of Bitcoin, it was kind of just like a religious community of people just saying this is going to be the future. And
Satoshi was the leader, and
Satoshi was this mythical god that was going to save us. So
there was an immaculate conception of Bitcoin.
Sure.
And then you had Ethereum, and it was just people.
I call it the second immaculate conception.
Yeah, people kind of did that with Vitalik, and I think it started with the memes. And I remember one of the first memes was just the Vitalik and the Lambo, and just
There were Lambo memes back then?
Yeah, everyone, I guess, who got rich in 2013, 2014. It's hard to believe, but most of the early people who got rich in Bitcoin were from Silk Road, Burning Man. Sure. It makes sense. But then you had Ethereum come out, and then all these religious people came over, and they just turned it into another religion. And I think that's in a sense why I created my brand Ethereum Jesus. Kind of just I saw that, and with other communities, I don't know, Chainlink kind of has a religious thing going for it too, with their creator.
But there's something special about Vitalik. He was this young kid. He was a genius.
He was a Bitcoiner as well.
He was a Bitcoiner. Yeah, he owned Bitcoin magazine.
Still is,
or he
was,
he was paid in Bitcoin, right? And he almost worked for Ripple. Thank God he did not.
Yeah. I wonder how that would have turned out. How do you guys, do you think Ethereum could survive today without Vitalik? Obviously, Vitalik wouldn't leave, because if he was that type of person, he wouldn't have created this in the first place. But how important is Vitalik for ETH?
I still think he is important for ETH, but it's gotten to the point where he's almost not even needed anymore. Ethereum is so important as an ecosystem.
Sure.
That he can step away and it would still exist. It would still survive.
Yeah.
Yeah. He would basically be a martyr if he stepped away. But I think everything's in motion and people are building it. He set all the pieces in the right places for everyone to just create this whole ecosystem. So I think what he did is it will always be respected. As long as he just doesn't leave for Ripple or something.
And his decision making too. I had on I guess Adam. Gosh, I forget his last name. It's gonna bother me. But he did a really wild report. He looked at the top 10,000 Ethereum addresses and the top 10,000. He basically did it for every chain. And he was looking at the top 10,000 ETH addresses, and he analyzed all of Vitalik's ETH addresses, and he showed Vitalik's conviction and basically the money he's donated, all these things. And it's Vitalik's in a weird spot. Satoshi left before this thing, not only before it got big, before it even got small. Satoshi was gone. Vitalik was there as it got small, as it got medium, and as it got giant where it is today. Do you think it ever gets to a point where Vitalik has to back out and play this? He can't, I guess. The monkey's out of the bottle.
Yeah. Well, I guess, you could look at Adam Back too. He was around Bitcoin.
That's true.
A few others since the beginning. So I think, after a while, crypto just becomes your identity.
Yeah.
Now these people are going to leave. Us included. I don't see how, I always say I'm going to leave crypto. I'm never going to leave. Yeah, I'm always going to be doing or building something in this space.
Sure.
As you guys invested in the Ethereum ICO, you had the conviction, you saw it. What was even the price? Because when people think about ICOs nowadays, they you can contribute ETH, you get X amount of tokens. Back then, before ETH was made, you couldn't contribute ETH. How did you even participate in the ICO? What was the price? What was the upside?
There's all misinformation how it was done. So it was a 2-month long ICO.
Yeah.
And you had to invest Bitcoin. So the price of Bitcoin fluctuated. So, I mean, I did the math on it, but like the average price that people would get in at, I think we're between like 25 to anywhere to up to 40 cents. I think our buy-in
Per
price
ETH.
is per ETH. Yeah. So you would get something, I think it was one Bitcoin got you 2,000 ETH.
And
And
today, one Bitcoin gets you 26 ETH.
so,
It's been a great investment versus Bitcoin.
So that was a Bitcoin ICO.
Yeah, the first one. Yeah.
This is also kind of weird because, as you know, I even talk about this. Like when I look at altcoins, and I am a massive Ethereum bull. I mean, the name of this show is Profit Maximalist. I love to look for opportunities to make money. I understand that a lot of these things are religious, and I also think there's value in people assigning kind of a belief system to a coin. There's a massive value in the defensibility of Bitcoin being a cult in a way. That's a huge positive, I think, for the project. People hate it. People hate the memes. People hate when they say have fun staying poor. I think it's a positive. And they say, look, Ethereum's gone down versus Bitcoin in the past 3 years. You should be in Bitcoin. As a trader, there's been a lot of months where it's gone up. For you guys, it's almost always gone up versus Bitcoin. Like Ethereum and altcoins in that way have beaten Bitcoin. How do you guys think about that now? Like, do you ever consider, is Ethereum going to beat Bitcoin this year, or do you even think about that?
From our perspective, we're so up against Bitcoin. Like it's just it's unfathomable. So we made a great investment going from Bitcoin into Ethereum. And yeah,
like
go ahead.
if we got 2,000 Ethereum for one Bitcoin and currently it's sitting at 26, like if it moves to 32 tomorrow,
It doesn't matter.
like,
Yeah.
you know,
Or even
We're
100.
not crying.
Yeah.
but I think it will, like the gap will get closer. I don't know if Ethereum will ever beat Bitcoin with the flip in it, but I think, the gap will get closer.
So that's interesting because this is what Tyler Winklevoss proposed. He said, if Bitcoin's going to be bigger than digital than gold, right? The analog version of the shiny rock that people have placed value in for 15,000 years. I understand why that's valuable, right? There's a Lindy effect. Gold's been around for a while. Central banks hold it. It's just been around for a while. Investors understand it. It can't be changed. Bitcoin's going to slowly eat into that. And he says, if decentralized finance is going to live on Ethereum, it should probably be worth more. It's a very rough model. It's a prediction. It's a thesis. Do you guys think the flipping happens? Is that your thesis?
I mean, if you look at US dollars, like real estate, like other like assets, global assets in the world, and then you compare that with gold, I mean, it's worth a lot more than gold, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I think if Bitcoin just wants to be gold and they're not going to do anything else, like I think Ethereum will win in the long term. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, market cap wise, I think long term Ethereum will eventually flip in Bitcoin because it's not just a store of value. It is a store of value too, but it's also a commodity, it's a currency, and it's a capital asset with proof of stake. So you're going to see, and then it has the DeFi app layer built on top of Ethereum. Like, yeah, it's going to be more valuable market cap wise than Bitcoin.
I'm a massive ETH bull. Like I could see the upside in ETH and thinking the flipping happens. I think that is an asymmetric bet. And still, I have a question. I kind of want to challenge you both on this. The one concern I always have for ETH, in it being a store of value, is that it's still subject to so many changes, and there aren't a lot of things set. Which is it's been a positive for ETH, right? The ability to change, the ability to iterate and add new features, and continue to kind of eat a lot of different use cases. DeFi being this big is only because Ethereum was so open to change, and Vitalik and the development team is very open and kind of liberal in the way they want to move. Do you guys think about that? And like, eventually ETH has to set a supply cap. Obviously, EIP 1559 might change that. But do you think in your head we have to eventually set a supply cap? There has to be monetary policy, or are you like, it kind of works itself out. The network has proved it's going to be stable. How do you guys think about that in terms of store of value?
Well, I think, Bitcoin has an artificial supply cap of 21 million. And, we won't know that for like 120 years. But I think that that will be unsustainable at that point. Like you will need to lift the supply cap of 21 million
I think it
in
could
order
happen.
to
The fee
pay the
market
miner.
won't sustain.
Yeah, that that's out of our lifetime. So
very-
Bitcoin is very, very lucky that they don't have to worry about that right now. With Ethereum, although there will never be a supply cap, there will be EIP 1559, and that actually makes it more deflationary than Bitcoin over the next 120 years in our lifetimes. So you're looking at Ethereum possibly being more sound money than Bitcoin in a few years.
So I'm curious about this because I don't know all the numbers. I track it enough to understand it at a high level. It being more deflationary than Bitcoin, this is a weird concept for new investors to understand. They invest in Bitcoin, it's a limited supply, there's unlimited dollars and yen and euros that are going to come out. There's more money chasing the same limited supply number of Bitcoin, that number will go up, right? That thesis is easy. For an asset like Ethereum with an unlimited cap, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around how can that go up in value if it's unlimited cap? How do you, what are the actual, how does that make sense? How does that deflationary work? James, do you know the math on that? How is it more sound money? Because it's an interesting thesis for people thinking about. I don't know if I agree with it, but I'm curious to hear.
You're right. It's easier for someone to understand, there's only 21 million coins. But I agree it's more difficult for someone to understand that although Ethereum doesn't have a supply cap, it's going to be more deflationary. Therefore, there's going to be less coins being added to the supply every year.
Is the inflation schedule determined right now? It's on a curve?
It's not determined yet, but it's predicted to be less than EIP 1550 or after EIP 1559 is added to Ethereum.
How is new ETH created? Is it created based on a demand basis? Is it created based on a schedule each year? How does that even work?
So after that change is added to Ethereum, also, you're going to be mining Ethereum now, but as we switch to proof of stake, when there's more coins put into circulation,
sure.
In order to guarantee that the miners aren't being paid too much, Ethereum will be burning a set of tokens
based on transactions.
Based on transactions. So the miners aren't getting paid too much. And what that does is it makes Ethereum deflationary.
I mean, there's $100 billion right now of US dollars that are in Ethereum, right? That's the market cap. And there's way more than that, maybe even half that, 75% of these tokens that live on Ethereum. When you guys invested, there were no ERC20. There was no tokens on Ethereum. Did you ever kind of think that it would compete versus Bitcoin? Was there an idea when ETH was launched, as Vitalik comes out with this idea, he's a visionary, you're making the investment, whether or not it's right or wrong to think it, where you this could be a better Bitcoin. Was that an idea at all proposed?
Well, we looked at the market cap of gold and, the US dollar and real estate and the market cap of Bitcoin. I don't even know what it was back then, but it was less than $1 billion.
Oh, definitely.
And it was like there's publicly traded companies that are worth more than this, that do nothing. So we really did see that vision, and then we did the math on the market cap of Ethereum of what it would be, and I think that really made the investment more clear. So we thought, if this is A and it's going to go to B, this is a really good investment. I hope other people did that too.
As we've gone through now, because what's so fascinating to me is you guys just have such a different perspective. Seeing that from the beginning, seeing where we are now, and over the past week or two, Ethereum's at all-time highs. James, I saw you bake the cake. Everyone's celebrating in different ways. I mean, it's an exciting. ETH is what got me into this space. Obviously, I'm a huge Bitcoiner. I love Bitcoin. I also love ETH, and I think there are some applications that were guilty until proven innocent, but they've proved that they have a use case. Decentralized exchanges, lending, those are valuable things that not only help a lot of people in the world, but they also, I think, support Bitcoin. as you guys look at this now, and I see price predictions for 10K, 20K, 80K by Tyler Winklevoss, right? From respected investors are calling for that. How do you guys think about the value for ETH now? You've had a lot of years to think about this. Some people have been in this for a year and they're making price targets. How do you guys think about this? Because a lot of people got in the ICO and they sold. You guys are still in this. You know, what's the target for you?
I've always seen Ethereum becoming a multi-trillion-dollar asset. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I see it happening. And that's kind of what I'm waiting for. You know, there's a meme going around that ETH is going to hit 10K. Around 10K, like that's when it first becomes a $1 trillion asset.
Sure.
So I see reason in that. But like what gives Ethereum value versus Bitcoin? Like Bitcoin is a store of value. It's gold 2.0.
Right.
And you've heard that Ethereum is a triple point asset, right? It's a commodity, it's a store of value, and it's a capital asset as well. So I think you're going to see Ethereum evolve to become just as good of a store of value as Bitcoin.
Especially when Ethereum becomes more deflationary than Bitcoin soon. And when ETH 2.0 rolls out. And,
EIP 1559.
Yeah.
Optimistic rollups, ZK rollups, the transactions per second will exceed 100,000. So, I mean, there's a lot of future growth, like with the roadmap for Ethereum, that I think will get it to a multi-trillion-dollar asset. It's definitely in the cards. But I think 10,000 is kind of like a short-term vision. It's just like for fun. Like, this probably will happen this year. But thinking long-term, it's probably going to be much more. It could definitely go to 80,000, just like what the Winklevoss one said. I also saw that article. I was like, yeah, they're probably spot on.
Yeah. How do you guys, as an investor, there's new people getting into Bitcoin. It's kind of crazy to me that people are still finding out about Bitcoin every single day, but it's happening. And they're going to find out about ETH, right? Institutions are finding Bitcoin. As James, you just said, the narrative is very clear, and it's a pretty easy thesis to grasp. Bitcoin is a better gold. It does almost everything gold does, but far better. It's more portable, divisible. There's a hard cap, right? It's kind of a perfect asset for people that want to store wealth. It is the thesis for people with a lot of cash that want to store their wealth. For ETH, it's a little bit tougher concept to understand, but I do think that people will come around to that. You guys have held through all this. Did you doubt it at any point in time? Because I imagine you know quite a few people that also got on the ICO and that sold. I've seen, you have people that created coins like Dogecoin. They sold very early. You have people, early Bitcoiners from 2013. They sold very early. What was it? Did you guys go through a year or two where you were like 2016, 2017? Oh shit, we should sell. Like what has you still holding?
So it's really hard when you have friends, family, girlfriends, wives, tell you,
oh yeah,
sell it all, just live a good life. But it's like when you have that vision of where it's going to go and you're just 100% confident, it just doesn't stop you from holding Ethereum because just selling would just be giving up. And even when Ethereum dropped 96% or something ridiculous to $80, we held strong, we bought more, and it came back. I think people in crypto were one of the first people to really talk about coronavirus too last year.
Yeah.
And just instability in governments and just all across the world is just that's what crypto is meant for. And that's why it's been such a great year. Also just the Bitcoin halving and just it's a cyclical based off reflexivity. So I think within 4 years from now, we'll definitely probably see $20,000 Ethereum. But it's just it's how long you want to hold your crypto, and it's probably going to crash again this year at some point. But we'll probably still be holding.
I've also said I honestly never want to sell. I've been waiting for proof of stake, and I've told myself I would be happy living off the interest I would make from proof of stake, right? If it's somewhere around like 8 to 10% per year, like that would be great. And I know a lot of Bitcoiners who are jealous of proof of stake because the Ethereum guys are going to be earning interest on their Ethereum just by holding it. The Bitcoin guys aren't. So now the Bitcoin guys are, turning their Bitcoin into WBTC and minting it on Ethereum, and they're using these DeFi apps and like trying to make some interest, or they're lending it on like Nexo.
I think Bitcoiners are realizing that they're not going to be making money off their wealth in the future. The miners all across the world will be.
But they are now, and the reason why Bitcoiners are able to make interest off their Bitcoin is because of Ethereum. So it's like this symbiotic relationship now.
Yeah.
What?
They wrap Bitcoin, and I know a lot of Bitcoin maximalists who are, dabbling with Badger DAO. So I think that attracts over, and there's going to be a lot more that's going to draw their attention.
I've been tracking Badger for sure. I'm friends with the man who came up with the idea. I was talking with him, and I think that's huge. I think there are so many. For me, it's like I've never understood the divide in the community of like a Bitcoin versus ETH thing. Like I said, it's two very different assets. If ETH was built only to be a challenge as a store of value and as a payments network, then sure, I would understand the animosity. That makes sense, right? Like competitors, Ford versus Chevy or whatever it is. That makes sense to have a competitor. For two entirely different narratives and theses here and use cases and value props, I don't quite get it, and I think they can be quite supportive. As you guys evaluate that, kind of going off the same line, as you evaluate new opportunities, I know you both looked at ICOs in 2017. Who didn't? There's a lot of other layer ones trying to compete with ETH. Have you ever considered and been like, the same way that ETH now provides more utility and adds some new functions that Bitcoin couldn't do, have you ever looked at a chain like Polkadot that's been doing incredibly well? You have Avalanche, you have Solana, all these things that claim they're going to be basically a better ETH. Have you ever looked at them and said, we should be going heavier in those? Maybe ETH has had its run. How do you guys think about ETH versus the ETH killers?
I guess funny story is we actually did the Polkadot ICO too. So, but that was because Gavin Wood helped create Ethereum,
right? And
so we kind of just invested in whatever Ethereum did.
Sure.
That was just like a portfolio decision, and it was a really good hedge. So we're still holding Polkadot. We also have Filecoin. We believe in IPFS, tech future. Solana. I want to touch that.
Not a fan of Solana.
No comment. No.
Yeah, there's Bitcoin maximalists, and people say, oh, there's Ethereum maximalists. I don't think that's true. I think there's decentralization maximalists. And with all these Ethereum killers, I look at them and I'm like, okay, that's great, but it's centralized, or it's more centralized than Ethereum is. And Ethereum could do the same thing, but in a more decentralized way. And using Polkadot as an example, nothing against Polkadot. I'm sure there's going to be use cases for it. But if you're trying to build the financial system on a blockchain, I think Ethereum is still the best blockchain you can build it on. And these Polkadot parachains are a little centralized, right?
Sure. And that matters for investors right now, because as people try to position themselves, if this really is the bull, I think there's been a paradigm shift, right? We're in a new time where more and more percentage of the world population is looking at Bitcoin, is looking at ETH, is looking at crypto. We're in a new type of bull run. As people look at this and try to position for that future, do you guys think that if Ethereum gets to a certain size, do things like Polkadot does Ethereum get so big that these things are just bound to fail? Does Ethereum get too big to lose at some point?
I think Ethereum definitely has a network effect right now. And I think the problem with Ethereum is, I guess, the price. I think it's honestly too low. And I think the higher the price goes, it's going to be less risky to institutions and investors. And that sounds crazy, but people only want to get in when it's worth something. Sure. And also, I guess the value of the network also is for security purposes too. So as Ethereum gets higher in price, which will happen, and as the tech becomes better and just transactions per second, and the whole financial world adopts it, I think there won't be anyone able to compete with it. With Polkadot and parachains, like I don't really quite see the vision yet, but I understand that companies or projects evolve, so I think they're going to get there. But they really have to come up with an idea of what all these parachains are going to be used for, because we don't need like a million parachains.
Sure.
Just one parachain for this, one parachain for that. It just doesn't make
Another
any sense.
important thing, Bitcoin and Ethereum both have moats thanks to the SEC,
Yeah.
right? Regulatory moats.
That's huge.
And that's very huge, and that's hard for these other blockchains to get past. Like they're going to need institutional support, and if they don't have the regulatory mode that Ethereum has right now.
I mean, as I talk to my friends and my, even my parents and my family, like people that invest now in 2021 or even last year, like questionably 2019, it wasn't so clear. But as new entrants are getting into the crypto market today, I think that's a very real consideration as you look at what's happening with Ripple. And I think it's going to happen it's already happened to a ton of ICO projects. I think it's going to happen way more often. But what we're seeing is, these things achieved something that coins won't be able to achieve anymore. Like we're at a point of awareness where you can't really launch a coin and then all of a sudden say, oh, we're decentralized. Like we didn't create that. Ethereum and Bitcoin have that benefit of going through 6 or 7 years where it was so small. There was much less money at stake, much less people watching. And it's the SEC and the governments kind of can't do anything at this point. They're so big. So that's a very, very real consideration there in terms of risk. What does excite you then if you kind of view those? I know Polkadot acts as a hedge. Obviously, that's probably benefited you guys being in that since the ICO, another great investment. As you guys look at new opportunities, what would actually excite you then? Regulatory concerns, that's a big thing. People have to think about that. ETH and Bitcoin have passed that, right? They've beat that challenge.
Yeah.
What would get you excited now in the world of crypto assets, in the world of digital assets that hasn't been built yet? What variable or factor or idea excites you, or what are you guys looking at?
Right now, we're honestly past the Ethereum killers. We did that 2017, 2018.
Sure.
We're looking strictly at DeFi tokens right now.
Yeah.
And the few DeFi tokens that we see a lot of potential in are Aave, SNX, and Uniswap. There's others too, and we're always keeping our eyes on DeFi Pulse, the total value locked, and we're looking for those small cap DeFi tokens that have a lot of potential. But yeah, DeFi is where we're looking right now, and I'm sure that's where everyone else is looking too.
Yeah. Do you like the change from Bitcoin to Ethereum was such a big leap, right? Like so many new capabilities that could be achieved. Do you think there is like another paradigm that we could hit in the next 5 to 10 years that no one's thought of, that, oh shit, like, we had Bitcoin, that's a clear store of value, that's gold 2.0. We have Ethereum now, it's decentralized finance. Is there like another new thing though that could excite you? Like clearly you guys have to think about that.
I think there is, and I think it's already out there, and it could be Filecoin. Like when you start merging Ethereum together with IPFS and linking possibly Filecoin together with Swarm, then things start getting pretty interesting. Like maybe that's the next development of Web 3.0.
Yeah, I think a lot of people aren't focusing on that, but I think that definitely will be the next chapter.
Yeah, Filecoin is currently struggling, or they were struggling with their tokenomics, but I think that once they get things figured out, things could potentially look pretty bullish.
That's fair.
Yeah.
One thing I also have to ask, because Bitcoiners have this wisdom being through so many cycles, they can see the upside. Everyone talks about upside. Not a lot of people talk about risk. Early Bitcoiners understand risk. They understand trade-offs. They understand the challenges and kind of the attack vectors. If Ethereum was to fail, what's like the biggest risks that you guys look at? Because you still have a lot of money on the line. You obviously want to see ETH win. I'm sure you guys will do very well in life regardless now. But as you kind of consider risks, like what things kind of probably don't keep you up at night anymore, but what risks do you see for ETH? How could ETH not win long term? That's also something that investors should consider. Do you think through those?
All the time.
I think the wheels are in motion.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we literally think about all the risks like all the time, every day.
How
But
can you not?
I think the wheels are in motion, and I think Ethereum, like at this moment, saying this, will succeed. And I've calculated all like the risks, like what could happen, and I don't think any of those things will happen. There's too many people working on it, and there's too much to lose at this point. And I think governments, banks, like I think everyone is prepared for this movement at this point, and they're just getting ready for it.
It's reached escape velocity is basically, yeah, that makes sense. So Filecoin is probably the next, if there was a third paradigm, it's Filecoin. It's the merge. We had store value, we have decentralized finance, and now we have an entirely new protocol that the entire world will value.
Well, the next evolution is like putting together all the protocol pieces for Ethereum, right? You have the oracles, like Chainlink.
Sure.
You have the query layer, like the graph, and you have the storage layer, Filecoin. So you're just like building and putting all those pieces in like Legos. And that's kind of what we're looking at. And then on top of Ethereum, we're going to have the DeFi app layer.
I have to ask it. Before we wrap this up, I have to ask, if you guys had to have a price target, you've succeeded this long in not selling. I don't know. I literally have never met another person with as much conviction in ETH, and it's so funny. It's why I had this idea to make this show, because everyone hears about early Bitcoiners. So many people. I've seen so many stories. You too are some of the few that have stuck around this long. Is there a level that you would eventually sell ETH at? Some people say Bitcoin's at 100K, Bitcoin's at 500K, I'm selling, right? That's the target. We hit gold's market cap. What is the level for ETH that people are like, okay, we've reached the goal?
We've actually told our family maybe around 10K we might take out a percentage, but we're never selling all of it.
Yeah, I mean the long-term plan is just hold it and live off the accrued staking interest. But short-term, I don't know, maybe I'll buy a house. So like do something, or just buy my parents something so that they can retire. Like I don't ever want to sell my youth.
What do you guys also think? I want to ask, because there's probably a lot of Ethereum bulls listening. What do you think Ethereum should, or people that are interested, should focus on and should be thinking about? Obviously, DeFi hogs a lot of the mind share. What kind of things should they be aware of? Like, it's pretty common knowledge now of what's a scam, what's not, right? Utility tokens for AI. It's like some of these use cases have clearly failed. Like some things have worked. Decentralized finance has worked. This is a cycle like no other. This hasn't failed. After the peak, it hasn't gone a 9 to 12 month downtrend. It's continuing to go up. What should people look out for, and just kind of some tips as investors are looking at Ethereum, they're open to it. What are some of the things that have helped you guys and that are going to help new people as we wrap this one up?
I would say don't get sidetracked. Focus on Ethereum and focus on how you can make the Ethereum ecosystem better. Right, a lot of people get sidetracked and they want to build their own blockchain that ends up becoming like a ghost chain, and you just wasted your time. You wasted all those developers' times underneath you. Bring those developers, put them into Ethereum, and try to do something great there, because that's where we're headed.
Julian, anything that you wish was happening in ETH that isn't happening right now?
Well, I mean, it made me think about NFTs and
Sure.
how they're kind of taking off right now, but I think we have a long way to go. I think the future vision of NFTs will really be with VR. So once we have those pieces together, I see a world where art and they're not just useless NFTs being given out for staking. That literally makes no sense. But they're actually being used in a VR world.
Right.
Or you have avatars, and
Right.
so I think there's going to be a strong evolution of that. But yeah, like I think everyone needs to stop being sidetracked with all these shit coins and just start
Go chains.
like ghost chains and just build on ETH, focus on the mission, and I think you will make better investments just having that mindset, especially in DeFi. Like look for what the world needs, like to replace like the future financial sentiment layer. I think these projects are out there and these visionaries are out there. You just have to like just invest in them.
Invest in them and have conviction for 7 to 10 years like you both had.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys both coming on. I don't know how it was that the universe aligned it that me and my brother both stumbled into you guys outside the bar that night. I hope we can do that again soon. It's not Corona time. But yeah, I appreciate you guys coming on. Your story is absolutely incredible. I'm a massive Ethereum bull, and every single cycle I'm still trying to understand this more of where does Bitcoin go. I think that topic has been explored a lot, and it still interests me. I think about it every day, but what isn't talked about enough is people from the beginning. What are they thinking about Ethereum? And as people listening to this, anyone watching on iTunes or anyone watching on YouTube can find their links down below. Follow them on Twitter. You just don't see too many Ethereum, OGs still out there, and you guys are still active in the community. I see you at every single conference, and hopefully we can all meet up and get a beer maybe at the Battery soon. So appreciate you guys coming on, man.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much for having us, and make sure to follow my account, Ethereum Jesus.
I will tag both of them down below. Like I said, some wisdom. I mean, clearly you guys have been early in a couple things, made some right bets. The most important thing that I've learned over the past 3 or 4 years that I've been in this is if you can find an opportunity you have conviction in, stick with that, stay exposed, and you'll win long term.
And the most important thing, don't get hacked. Get a nano ledger. Don't store things online, because we've survived a few hacks, and luckily we're here today.
I'm glad you still are, because we got to do this show. So I appreciate you guys both coming on. Let's get a beer soon. All their info is down below for the listeners on iTunes and Spotify. If it's not right there, head on over to YouTube and follow them both. Some Ethereum OGs. I'm excited about where this thing can go, and it should be a fun year, 2021. Thanks for coming on, James and Julian. Hope to see you both soon.